The details about Ruth Perry's incredibly sad death are astonishing to read. And I was looking at the details yesterday, how she was writing notes to herself, how she was approaching various doctors, hospitals, and how in each case she was being failed. And her friends, her family were saying that they had never seen her looking so despondent. And in the end, in January, she took her own life. And there's now a story about how one of the Ofsted inspectors sniggered loudly and had a mocking tone during the inspection. Now, the real problem, this is coming out at the coroner's office in Berkshire, and there was a meeting between Ruth Perry and Alan Derry, the Ofsted inspector who led the inspection of the school in November 2020, and Hugh Southey, the barrister who represents the family, says she referred to you as having sniggered loudly and having a mocking and unpleasant tone. And Alan Derry denies that he behaved in that way. He says, no, not at all. And there was a major safeguarding concern around the safeguarding of children, and this needed to be immediately addressed and safely addressed. And Mr. Derry said that he had acted proactively, ringing a senior colleague, and he paused the inspection. I think the sniggering is extraordinary. Maybe he just had a cold, but certainly that sense of condescending authority is exactly the sense that I have witnessed twice in Ofsted inspections, twice. And not only coming from the Ofsted inspectors, but also coming from senior members of staff who have taken on this sort of role of Rottweilers in the staff room. And that desperation to get through those Ofsted hurdles has brought out the nastiest side in staffing that I have seen in schools, and the fact that I've seen it twice. It's just my own anecdotal evidence, but I have seen it, and I've been caught up in it twice, and I didn't like the experience. And at the same time, there was evidence of bullying going on, not only in the playground, but as I suggested, in the staff room. And that is brought on, and that is the Ofsted inspection acted as a catalyst for the worst excesses of that. Now, of course, in order to have examples of bullying, that bullying needs to have been in the system in the first place. And I don't think Ofsted automatically means that a school suddenly has an infestation of bullying. But if there is an infestation of bullying there, if it's been dormant, but it's there, then Ofsted is bound to bring it to the surface. And it's bound to surface both in the playground and in the staff room. And that is what I saw. And that certainly is the experience of other people I've spoken to. Added to which, of course, the Ofsted inspectors themselves bring their own regime, and that may involve bullying as well. And the fact that somebody can stand in a coroner's court and say, well, no, that didn't happen, I didn't snigger. Then please explain what you were doing. Maybe you just had a heavy cold. I remember hearing somebody who I thought was sniggering. They did, in fact, have a heavy cold. And that was a perfectly good explanation. But without that explanation, I heard sniggering, and I don't hear Alan Derry telling the coroner's court that he had a heavy cold. So how else does he explain the snuffy, the noises? Unless he's some sort of I don't know. I mean, has the court itself heard him making these noises? Maybe they have. Maybe that's an explanation. Maybe it's some sort of verbal tic. But one can understand why somebody who feels vulnerable, somebody who feels pressured, and every head teacher feels vulnerable and pressured by the experience of Ofsted. There is the argument that says that with Ofsted, you get a week's notice, and then the Ofsted inspectors come in, they turn the school upside down, and then you go back to doing exactly what you did beforehand. Well, that's also true. So in that case, you would say, well, Ofsted does nothing. It has no effect at all. But there's also the situation where schools think, well, we haven't had an Ofsted inspection for a while, we're due one. They bring in the troops, and they make life hell for a term, 2 terms, until the Ofsted inspection happens, and everybody can then relax and pat each other on the back. But the casualties mount up. I don't see that this is an ideal way to run a school when there's so much pressure on teachers already. And now the government wants to add further pressure by making teaching one of these essential services that cannot strike. Well,